So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. As you can see by the screen here, we've just finished playing our qualification games for the week and we actually finished 9-1 using this 4-4-2 which we're about to get into. The thing which is good about the 4-4-2 is I find it to be really solid defensively and it's very easy to get the hang of. It's not something that you always have to practice for a long time to learn. It's a very basic formation and sometimes that is the best way to get results in this game. So with all that aside guys, let's get right into it. If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code REMA, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then guys, so starting off with the tactics for the 4-4-2. For the defensive style, we have this on balance. This is because it does give you the best control over your defense, so when you want to press your opponent, you're able to do that, and then when you want to drop off and be a little bit more passive, you can also do that. We also don't need to use pressure tactics because of something that we'll get into in a moment, so just leave this on balanced for now. Moving on to the defensive width guys, I have this on 46 at the moment. This is so we can defend in a nice narrow and compact shape, but we still have a nice bit of width to cover the wider areas in case an opponent goes for an attack down the wing. You don't want to get sucked into the problem of having your defense way too narrow because there's just so much space down the wing for your opponent to attack you there, and on the flip side you don't want to have crazy high width, otherwise there's just so many gaps in the middle, so you want to have a nice balance, which is why I have it on about this. Moving on to the depth guys, this is what I was on about when I said you don't need to use pressure tactics. On the new gen versions of the game, if you have your depth on 71 or higher, you will basically get this automatic press from the AI. It is very, very strong, very overpowered, and is like really automatic. So the game will start pressing for you, overloading the ball side, and it also breaks your opponent's attacking AI. Now this is a really broken tactic, something that does need to get fixed in the future, but honestly it is worth using at the moment because it will just make your life a lot easier. So 71 depth if you're on the new gen, and if you're on the old gen, just lower this to about 60 and you'll be fine. Now moving on to the build-up play guys, I like to have this on balance. This is because I find it to be the most controlled and varied form of build-up. When you have your build-up play on balance, you can pick and choose when and where you use each form of build-up. So if you want to play a bit slower, you can do that. And then when you want to speed it up and play a bit faster, you can also do that. So balance is really good for that reason, and I do very much suggest using it. Now moving on to chance creation guys, I think it's very important to have this on direct passing because it's the only setting which will actually make your attackers move in the correct ways. It makes your attackers make more versatile and dynamic runs to make it easier to create chances. Your attackers will also bunch up against the opposition defenders, meaning it's very easy to isolate a specific defender and take him on in a 1v1. So direct passing, very, very important. Moving on to the width guys, because the 4-4-2 is a bit of a wider formation, we do use a higher width than we would with other formations. So I like to have this on 53 because I feel like it is nice and wide, but not too wide at the same time. You know, a lot of the problems people have when they use these wider formations is they'll up the width way too much and your players just become really spread out, and playing a simple pass between players can actually be very difficult as there is such a great distance that you're always having to lump really hard passes between your players. So we want to have this wide but not too wide. For players in box guys, I have this on 6. This is so we can get a few players into the box to finish off those chances, but we don't overcommit everybody on the team to the point where if we lose out on possession, we're not always going to get counter attack. So this is down to preference, but I just prefer to have this on 6. As for corners and free kicks guys, this is another preference thing, but I just have these on 2 at the moment. This is so I can play the set piece short if I want to, but there is also a few players into the box if I do want to cross. So just pick whatever you want for these 2 settings. Sorry to interrupt the video guys, but I have noticed around 90% of you that watch the content are not subscribed. So if you are finding any of these videos helpful, please be sure to hit that subscribe button as it does help me out massively. Also don't forget to drop the video a like as well. And with all that aside guys, let's get back to the video. Now moving on to the player instructions that I use guys, on both of the strikers I like to have them on stay central and get in behind with this formation. The reason we have them on stay central is because they are our strikers, so we don't want them drifting out into those wider areas. It is important that they do maintain those central positions so they're always in the correct position where a striker should be. They're not going to be too much use to you out on the wing. We also have these players players on get in behind, as it makes them make these very dangerous runs to bother your opposition's defense. Basically, on mixed attack in this formation, I feel like everything can be a little bit too static, so it is worth using these strikers on getting behind. So you've always got runners in behind using their pace and really troubling the opposition defense. That being said, if I am playing against a really good player, I will sometimes put it on mixed attack just so I can get a bit more fluid, varied movement, because if you have it on getting behind all the time, sometimes you'll notice it just becomes a bit one-dimensional and predictable against a good player. So getting behind's great, but you also might want to try mixed attack if that is up your street. Now moving on to the left mid and the right mid, guys, very important instruction here. We have them both on comeback on defense. This is so that they always fill in the correct position when we don't have the ball, because if you have them on basic defensive support, sometimes these players can get a little bit lazy and it will almost defend in like a 4-2-4, because these players will like stay higher up the pitch and not really do their job defensively. But when you put them on comeback on defense, it ensures that they will fill in the correct positions and keep your defensive shape as the way it should be. We also have these players on getting behind. This is so they do utilize their pace to make those runs. Again, can be a little bit too static if you have these players on like mixed attack or balanced support. So getting behind is really useful, as these players can use their pace to get in behind down those wings. Moving on to the left centre mid, guys, I do use a more defensive minded midfielder in this position. So on this player, we have him on stay back while attacking and cover centre. Stay back while attacking is useful because, like I said, this is a more defensive player, so we don't want him flying forward. We do want him to stay back while default, and then we also have him on cover centre, so we will always defend those central areas, because we don't need this player to cover the wing. We've already got the left mid and the left back to cover the wide areas. We don't need this player to do that as well. We want him to cover those central areas. Now for the other centre mid, guys, I like to use a more box-to-box style player, and on this player we leave him on the default settings and also have him on cover centre. We leave him on the default settings because, like I said, he is a more box-to-box style player, so we don't just want to limit him to defending all the time. We want him to attack and defend and basically have a bit of freedom. The only important thing is that we have him on cover centre, so like the left centre mid, he will defend those central areas. As for the right back, guys, this is my more attacking minded fullback. So on your more attacking minded fullback, doesn't really matter which one, I suggest putting them on balanced attack and overlap. This is because in this formation, the right mid and the left mid can still get into very narrow positions and not always utilize the width, which is a pretty good thing sometimes, and it works really well with what we're going to do with the fullback. So some of you might have this on cut inside, for example, but even on balanced width, a lot of the time these players will cut inside instead of staying out wide. So on one of the fullbacks, the overlap run type means that they will always make those overlapping runs to add the extra width to the team. So when the right mid and the left mid are running into those narrow areas, this player will make an overlapping run. So we've got players in both the narrow and wide areas at the same time. Now for the other fullback, your more defensive minded one, I suggest stay back and overlap. This is so we always have at least 3 defenders back at a time, but when we send this player on a run forward for the exact same reason as the other fullback, he'll make those overlapping runs to give you that wider option. If you feel a bit uncomfortable sending your fullbacks forward, you can put them both on stay back while attacking and overlap. You just might feel that your attack's a little bit flat sometimes and it can be a little bit difficult to actually create chances, but that's just me. As for the 2 centre-backs, guys, you want to leave them alone. You don't want to touch anything there. And as for the keeper, if you want, you can put him on comes for crosses and sweeper keeper. Completely up to you, but I just prefer to leave him on balanced. And yeah, that is it for the video, guys. If you have enjoyed or found this useful, please be sure to leave this a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on those notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out.